Light is rising, darkness retreats.
And this is the room we actually listened to for a lot of the songs first in, right?
Yeah, with this we made a lot of the songs in this room.
That's right.
Yeah, we
It's a
did.
special room.
No, I think I remember us deciding that we were gonna kind of write in a different way, like instead of writing typically with an acoustic or a piano or whatever was comfortable, actually getting outside of that comfort zone and writing with different instruments and almost letting the sonic palette and the sounds kind of drive melodies and ideas. And that's definitely how Illuminate and King of Life started, I think.
Yeah, because it's so easy as singer-songwriters to constantly write on our instruments and then
Totally.
sit in a room like this and play them. And, you know, while it's enjoyable like that, but it can actually contain the songs. And it was really fun starting from the place of just creativity and outside of the box rather than inside of the box.
Yeah, because you come up with different things and you come up with different thoughts and different ideas and different melodies, and I always think it's really a really healthy thing to do, because as songwriters it's really easy for us to revert back to what we know and lyrics that we know and melodies that we know and things that we always fall back on. But as soon as you remove yourself from that normality, like new levels of creativity come out. So I think it's really fun.
I think it was also that with Banners, we actually started, instead of it just being, look, this is my songwriting life and I'm going to bring my songwriting life, not that there's anything wrong with that, to the table. But it was like, it was a time where we began to dream of what's our songwriting life look like as a team, and how do we write the songs that are the heartbeat of our church community. As well as there's some great songs on there that have been written in the personal lives of each of us, and but I think we found a new gear.
Totally.
Yeah. I think it was shocking to me, like when to see, like in our songwriting community, I knew what a Joel and Ellie song sounded like, or I knew what a Jared Dana song sounded like, but I didn't know what an Us song sounded like. And I think that was one of the funnest aspects for me, was finding out what it actually... So Illuminate is a song that Joel, Ali and Jared and myself all started. Well, Joel and Jared started it, but we all had a hand in. And I think by the end of it, we all stood back and went, ooh, cool. I couldn't have written that on my own, or I couldn't have sounded like that on my own. But within the context of bringing our strengths to the table... listen to this song we all love so much. And similar for King of Life. So I think that's really fun part of the songwriting process this time.
Totally.
I think even with Through and Through, like I remember sitting in this room and hearing Camilla sing it a cappella for the first time. It was just so much fun. I think everyone's jaws just dropped because it just has such a beautiful melody.
Totally.
And what I love about Joel is that he has the ability to hear something in a song and to take it further and to keep pressing us to get uncomfortable with what we're comfortable with. And he was able to take that and add elements or bring things to the fore in the song that really characterize the song. And obviously with Renee's vocal in it's just gorgeous in the recording as well.
Amazing.
Just, but I think that's what community is. It's actually this element of, hey, I've got this heartbeat. I've got this voice. I've got this ear to hear something more, and I think that's the fun part of doing life together and shaping the sound of our community at Stairway.
Yeah, I think I thought that was actually really brave of Camilla to rock up to a songwriters' night and kind of present a song like that, because the normal way of kind of approaching that as a songwriter would be, well, this song isn't ready to be shown because there's no harmony or anything, there's just a melody. And I remember hearing that first time and just literally being blown away. It was just so fresh and so new. And that that kind of like really excited me and kind of excites me from now on to start to understand the next generation of songwriters that are coming up and pressing more into that. So that was really fun to work on.
Yeah. And I think what you do as well, Joel, is you give them permission to dream outside of the realms of what they've seen before, what works at church, what works for worship, you know. And even a song like King of Life, it's got a different feel about it than a typical rock worship song, and it's so cool to hear freshness come and to re-envision and reimagine the way we lead worship. And it's amazing the feedback we're getting from a song like that it's resonating deeply, although even for us as worship leaders, when we lead these songs, it's almost unnerving, you know.
Totally.
Like, we haven't done it this way before, you know.
Absolutely.
What was that like for you, Camilla? Bringing a song to the table for the first time and hearing it produced for the first time. Was that?
It was scary. I remember the first time I walked into this room, Jared was like playing the piano. I was like, I'm so intimidated. I'm with all these like amazing songwriters. And then
Should have had me play the piano.
and then I remember I went last because I was like, no, I'm good. And I went and then I sang it and everyone was like so encouraging and so supportive and made me feel so good.
Yeah.
And then I drove home that night and I was so excited. I was like, yes, I'm going to have like a song somewhere in the world. Yeah. It was exciting.
That's cool. I remember your Facebook post the other day. I'm a real songwriter.
Totally.
But we obviously always knew.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So where was that song birthed for you?
I want to have some amazing story. I had a revelation, but I was literally just like going to get in the shower one night and then I just had to sing When the Waves are trying to pull me under. And I was like, oh, so I took out my phone, I recorded it.
Very good.
And then I got and then I was like, oh, get in the shower now. And then I got the next bit and the next bit. And then it was just the whole song was just recorded. And I was like, oh, awesome, I have a song.
Very good.
So good.
And
That's great.
I guess the story behind it would be, I feel like that song is something that I need to sing on a regular basis for myself.
Yeah.
Just where I've come from in my journey of renewing my mind. I feel like it's been a really hard process of just reminding myself. So I straighten my posture and I remember who I am and whose I am.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of like God gave me that song to help me on my journey, and now it can help other people.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's one of the beautiful things about that song is its vulnerability.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And it's true, the best songs are written out of that place of reality, you know, and it's a really real song. So. Thanks, great.
What was that like for you, Renee, to capture the heart of what Camilla had written and sing?
Yeah, as a songwriter, being a singer, not a songwriter, it was actually quite unnerving at first because it was like, I know what it's like to write a song and to give it to somebody else to sing. I did feel the weight of it, but at the same time, the words were so universal and they resonated so deeply with me. And I found myself, I found it, I was just singing it all the time. Particularly, and I was straightening my posture, and it just resonated really deeply. So I must admit, on the day, it was, I felt a weight and a responsibility to try and capture what Camilla had done and to do it justice because it was just so beautiful.
I was sitting there watching you.
And she was sitting there watching it.
Just do that bit of
So, but it
It's
was,
so good.
but it was a really, I just felt really honoured to be asked, and just it's such a beautiful song, and I've had so many people just saying they have it on repeat.
It's true.
They just literally people just have it on repeat, and that God is using it so much in people's lives. People are sending it all over the place, and
So
it's
good.
just been beautiful. So I feel really honoured to have been able to sing it and to be able to actually sing it live.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah.
It felt like my song. It felt like I owned it.
Yeah.
And I
That's
love
so
it.
good.
So I think you've just done a stellar job, and thank you, because it was a big honour to be asked. So Yeah,
you
no,
did so great.
Beautiful job.
That would have been a pretty intimidating thing to do, coming into a vocal session. But you handled it so well.
Right there.
I literally
Totally.
I'm like, Joel, take 5? Yeah, that's a good one.
Because
She actually got that one. Yeah.
because recording in general, but especially vocal sessions, can be so you're dancing with emotions and the atmosphere and people's feelings and respect and all of these things. So I find for me it's more about what isn't said than what is said. And yeah, I think that you just came in and you owned it from the get-go. It wasn't so much of a like easing in, like there was a certain amount of easing in from learning how you were going to sing it tonally and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of knowing the song and having the song, you already had it before you walked in, and that was evident.
So good.
Evident to me. So that was great.
Fun.
Yes.
It's again the thing of community too, because what Renee brings in her history with God, the anointing that's deep in her life, she pours out and marries that with the vulnerability of a well-written song, and it just culminates into a really special moment that is that's what team life is all about.
100%.
Totally.
100%.
Similar, I guess, with Oh Wonder as well, and how Anna brought Oh Wonder along into one of our writing sessions, and we ended up working on that tune, and that one just began to get a life of its own. It was a few years in the making in a lot of ways.
When was that written? That one?
Same time as Pull My Love.
No way.
Really?
Way. 2014.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
And I think it went through
Crazy.
iterations though. Like I think even in the
The
following
chorus
years.
stayed the same the whole time.
Yeah.
It never changed.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The most recent edition was the bridge, though, right?
Yeah. We rewrote
finally
the bridge
found the bridge that
completely.
worked for the song.
Totally.
Totally.
It's a great song.
And that's kind of become a bit of an anthem in our church, isn't it? That song, like just the wonder of who he is. There's not much more like you can just sit in that, like just in the wonder of who he is and how good he is, and who can compare to you, God, And I think that on the EP anyway, Jared, you just bring such a beautiful presence with you as you sing that song.
Totally.
And then Anna matches it beautifully with some gorgeous harmonies. Angelic harmonies.
Would you say?
I would say.
It's my favourite vocal take you've ever done.
That's a
It is my
beautiful. It
favourite.
is a beautiful vocal.
Yeah.
That one.
Brilliant.
That is
So
good.
good. So Illuminate was a different song, I guess, a different way we've mentioned of how we wrote it. But Jared, you and Joel started that song. How was that for you, jumping in at the front end and then jumping, like hearing the finished song when you came back from maternity leave?
Totally.
Yeah, because you
Tell
had a
us
baby
about
in
That's
that.
that
right.
one.
I mean, I think that's interesting.
It's a full story.
I remember Joel and I were, because part of the thing that we've been dreaming about is what's our sound, what's the sound of joy in our community, what's the sound of praise rising up in our community. We're talking a lot about what's the sound of salvation, what's the sound of people's hearts coming alive to God.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking, tempo plays a big part of that, and finding the right tempo for a song helps joy rise up. And I remember we were like, okay, what's the song that's got like great tempo about it?
128, the bangers tempo.
The banger tempo. I can't remember which songs we listened to. Can you find tempos?
I cannot remember.
But we just chose a tempo that was just banging, and we just started mucking around. I had in my heart to just cry out and declare over our city coming alive and a light to God, and I guess a prophetic anthem, but a one that's joyful and one that's hope filled about our streets coming alive to God. And it was really fun. So we started that off. We had that main synth sort of hook happening.
Yeah.
We started writing some verses, and then they all got changed. No,
No, they really did. I'm just kidding.
there was a few things the same at the end. But
The melody was
But
cracking.
the melody is still there, Jared.
That was the thing.
Melody.
Is that, because you wrote
the themes were there.
Light
You
is
wrote-
rising.
and the pre
Yeah.
and the
Hope is
pre-melody.
reborn,
So you-
alive in me.
Yeah, it's
Which
fun.
which can be the getting those kind of melodies can be the hardest thing sometimes.
Yeah, I think
Totally.
security on my part was big in that right there. It's like I trust the people around me to make good decisions, even if I'm not included in them.
You were the core.
I remember us coming together to finish writing the song because you had Savannah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we've got this project. We needed the song done. We're like, all right, we're gonna finish it for her. Totally. And it was actually, I remember at one point going, you know what the melody should do? And I thought it was a new idea, but I sung the actual melody. And Melly's like, yeah, okay, that is a good melody. That's the
it's already
melody.
there.
I'm like,
That's
yes.
the melody, yes.
Well, I like it a lot. But I think we had a lot of fun trying to
A lot of fun.
bring what you'd brought of this concept of light into the fore, and then tease out all these words and creative ways of saying the light of God.
Yeah.
And writing these verses that hopefully echo your heart for the song and Joel's heart for the song in the initial phases around.
Yeah. Taking some of the schmishtin out of it. And
Totally.
Yeah.
Or just
Yeah.
fresh language, because I think that we sometimes reach for the familiar. I reach for the familiar all the time because it's easy, and it's when you're writing inspirationally, it's just what comes. But I think sometimes what this project has taught me as a songwriter is to actually stop
Yeah.
and to revisit some of the lyric content in a new framework,
Yeah.
and to try and say something that's an old idea in a fresh way.
Yeah.
I remember us trying to get that
Search out that word.
get the because I remember being
You were
in
pacing.
here. Yeah, I was
Joel's
like
pacing.
wrestling with that, one of the biggest things for me is like that image, like when you have a really strong image of a song and you have a great melody that matches it. That's when you really have the strength in a song. And I remember just being like, there's like a word, there's like a strong word with a strong image here. And I think we kind of started to land on some others, and I was just like, nope. And then someone, I don't know, it was like on the Thesaurus or something. I can't remember. We were just talking about it, and then that popped up. And then it was like, and then it fit.
Yeah, we just
lyrically.
kind of sang it. And then we were like, that's it. Illuminate. It's a fresh new way of saying, light me up, Lord.
Totally.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm lit up for you.
Yeah, totally. And it was so fun then at More Conference recently when we first did it, that it's like all the preaching was around
my
this
gosh.
theme, and it's amazing because we did set our hearts before the Lord, saying, Lord, we want to write the
Yeah.
future. We
Yeah,
want
we
to
do.
declare the things that He's
Totally.
declaring. We want to teach the congregation what He's saying in a new way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and partner our songs with the messages and
Yeah.
stuff. It was really fun too.
I remember when Graham Cook came a few years back and spoke a prophetic word over the songwriters of our house, and saying that we would write what we would see, we would write what we want to see in our house. And I think it was pretty amazing at More Conference. Before we went into it, we wrote this song called Illuminate, and then the entire theme, that sort of came out from James Maloney was all about being illuminated by the Lord. And I, in that moment, I was kind of like, that's exactly what's just happened. We've written what we want to see happen. And so just beginning to really walk into that more. And I think we did that a little bit as we started with King of Life. I remember Jolie, jumping straight to the bridge here, but we wanted to write this bridge where Jolie had this great idea about how about we write a prayer of what we want to see happen in our city, in our nation, and on the earth. And it was just a different concept of starting the bridge with Jesus, I pray. It was more of this is our prayer, God. This is what we're saying, and this is what we're declaring. And I love that bridge so much.
Yeah.
It's becoming such a anthem in my life of Jesus. I pray that you'd emanate your glory in me. I pray that the world would see your beauty, like just singing that out. I love that I get to sing a prayer almost. So
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it was fun writing that one, hey?
totally.
that was the funnest.
That
That
was
was
the
so much fun.
Get a fat beat like that. And
Totally.
It
Well, we were
was so-
listening in the
yeah.
studio because we'd set aside a writing day, and Ali and Scarly, your Bobby was sick vomiting, so you had to go, and we'd just been listening to Ellie Goulding. We're allowed to name drop on the show.
Good friends. Good
I
friends.
don't know if you heard it. But we were listening to Ellie Goulding, and we were just having fun with some of her songs. We're like, let's start a beat like that. Yeah, and we started with a beat like that, and we just started with the verses. And we started with the nothing in this world
Yeah,
could
pretty,
ever
yeah.
come
That's what it
close.
started. Yeah.
And came together to kind of write. All we had was a verse and a bridge, and we came to Ellie and we're like, we had another writing session. And it, to me, was amazing how from that point, with just the beginning little moments of the song, it became what it is. And it was like we were flowing together in songwriting so well, and it was a real joy for me to do it in a community sense, in that way, without coming with an idea that was anyone's or a riff that was anyone's, but just starting from this kind of blank slate. And
It was really funny because I remember we had 2 of the verses and then we thought we were sort of done.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like we did
right.
the chorus and the bridge and we thought the song was finished, and then we were just about to sort of head into recording and Joel was like, oh, we need another verse. And Anna and I were like, so we were actually in the car on the way to church and we were on for worship that night and we literally wrote it in the car and
in the foyer
in the foyer. And it just worked. And I think sometimes, again, I'm going back to prophetic words because I just feel like, you know, God is obviously on some of the songs that we write. Well, all the songs that we write, I'm going to say that, but you can edit that.
Some of the songs.
It's definitely not
Not a
those.
few. The lightest touch.
Anyway, what I'm saying was, I'm going back to prophetic here, but I remember when Joshua Mills said a few years back when he was here and he said over the worshippers and the songwriters of the house that you would just get downloads, it would just come, and you wouldn't have to, like almost like you don't have to labor for it. And so I feel like in some of the writings that we've had in this particular EP, we haven't labored for it. It's just been a download of heaven. We've just had words. It's just sort of, you know, we were sitting in the car and it just kind of came. It was just the words were there, the melody was there, and it was just a download from heaven. And I love that. I mean, it's such an easier way of writing.
Amen, sister. Amen.
But yeah, it's almost like a little bit of, you know, the breath of heaven's on all the songs, but you know what I mean. Edit that out.
Yeah. I think that that the reason why I think so many of those things happen is because we were also willing to almost change our way of writing to accommodate someone else's. I think that, like, I know for me, if I feel pressured into finishing a song, like in a day, I'm just like, don't go. I'm like, if it happens, cool, but I'm just like, no. But I know for Anna, it's like she loves just sitting down at the piano and not leaving until she's got a song down. And so then when we all came together and we were like, you know, doing this kind of like, it was like this tussle. It was like you were like, we're done. It's great. And I'm like, we're not done.
It's not done.
It's like, but we found this kind of like middle ground where it just kind of like, we all kind of compromised and we all kind of learnt, like for me, I was like, yeah, songs don't need to take as long as I think that they do. And then, you know, Anna's probably like,
there's value
maybe I can sleep on a song.
Maybe
maybe that actually works.
Totally. I think for me, one of the hardest things was starting with just the beat.
Yeah.
Because I am very much an inspirational writer in that I'll get in the presence of the Lord and just write my heart to Him. My song life is my prayer life. And We Want to See You Move is a perfect example of that prayer life kind of song inspo framework. But then you come to something like King of Life where you start with just a beat and it's like, we had a melody and a beat before we had any words. And it was so back to front for me to try and write this. And I remember us sitting down in this room going, what's the point of the song? What are we saying?
Yeah.
And trying to, like, after we've got all the bits of the song except the words, to try and wrestle that out, and it was just such a great experience for me to expand and to hear it actually sung. So I remember sitting in the process going, can this be a really spiritual song if we're not even writing something super, like if it doesn't start from that place of breath and flow? And I'm like, actually it can be.
Totally.
Because we've gotten to the end of this song, and you know, we all have sung it with just this amazing intentionality and relationship with the Lord, and it's like, it was just such a great experience for me in that sense too. And even when we're in it, we're like, this is a great experience, this is different, this is wonderful. So I think it's a real
What's
joy.
that scripture that says out of the
Mouths of babes?
no
That was literally just gonna say that.
out of the depths of
Out of the abundance of the
Babes.
heart.
out of the abundance of the heart. Gosh,
Luke speak. Yeah.
Ali. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so, as natural worshippers, you know, it's just the overflow of our heart and who we, and just finding lyrical content and explaining in our song who he is. And I think it's cool. It's a different way of writing, but it's
Totally.
but we already have that knowledge, and we already have that in us. So it just flows out of us. And so
That's been our motto as well, like during this EP. It's like the amount of times that people have said,
We had a motto.
Producer says we had a motto.
this is the motto. People have been asking, this is the motto. But it's been, how else can we say this?
yeah.
How else? So someone will come up with something, and it'll be like, how else can we say that? It's like, I think in church music we can often you come at the same direction, and the Lord has so many different facets to him that coming to him and speaking to him from the same point, we're missing so many other different ways of saying a similar thing. And that's been, and so I think pushing for that, because that hasn't always been easy.
Totally.
It's been frustrating in some moments where it's like, you know, we think we're done, but there's one line that's just like bugging, and it's like, how else can we say that line?
That last line, the
And-
King of Life has risen.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Took us ages to get that line. We got him.
I think with many of the songs, actually, there was lyrics and sections of the songs we had to fight for, in the sense that I think about Love Is One, and you know, it was a complete song for quite a while, and then when we were recording it, I'm like, we really need a second verse to help bring the joy into the song. And I remember
Totally.
just suggesting that this would be a great way for us to go, and then just getting together with the guys and working that through, and it was just exciting to see.
It's a gracious way of putting it. Didn't we write a verse and email it to them?
I think that totally happened.
And we loved your thoughts.
That was
And we
my way of
value you,
saying
and we
getting
value
together.
you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Great email.
That's the vulnerability here.
Yeah.
We love it. It
And
was
I
a
think
great
that,
email.
And yet
that
you
and
did.
so
And
That's
yet
exactly
we
what
got
the song
exactly
needed.
what we needed, and that's the thing about writing in a community, isn't it? Because it's actually what we couldn't see, you guys saw.
Yeah.
And then
it brought another facet.
it brought
into
another
the song.
facet to that song, and it was missing that joy piece.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was,
It definitely was.
after you said that, it was so evident that that's what we needed,
Yeah.
because it had this part to it going, yeah, but love is one, but we should be joyful about the fact that love is one.
Yeah.
And there was that kind of resonating part that just was missing. So, you know, it was super valuable what you added.
Totally.
Totally. And I think
May not have used all your words, but that's okay.
that's right. It's just the idea of journeying it together. And I remember with Through and Through, it was the same thing. There was ideas of, hey, we
Yeah.
can
Totally different
Write a
parts.
new verse.
It sounds like it happened at 3 out of 5 songs, so you weren't alone.
That's it. That's
It
totally.
happened while we were recording it.
Totally.
Did it?
Now's
Yeah,
the
you were
time.
Yeah, we
writing-
were
you
making
writing
decisions
words.
in the vocal
Oh,
session.
And then I was recording it.
What should that word be?
Now that's fresh.
That word doesn't
That's
work.
fresh.
Sing it
Which is actually
Which
great,
was
because
great.
you're running off inspiration.
Absolutely.
And there should never really be a point where it's like, we
This is
can't
the-
change it
Yeah, we were. It was
until the song is obviously
It was great.
released.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
think
great.
as songwriters too, there's a certain amount of just having to let go of certain things, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, the joy. The joy of holding things lightly, as Ali used
Things
to
lightly.
Hold it lightly.
holding
Don't
it
get too
lightly.
attached.
That's right. Well, I remember when you came with Through and Through, and the your chorus was actually not what the chorus is on.
Yeah.
It was a totally
We
different
scrapped the chorus. I had two bridges, because bridges are so fun. And then one of the bridges became the new chorus, and then the old chorus was just not there anymore.
Yeah.
And the verse and the chorus were in different keys.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
took me like
Turns
10
out,
minutes to like figure out
turns out
why
it
they
just
weren't
wasn't
working.
happening.
So the
And I was like,
moral of the
oh.
story is
It's not
is
bound
that
by your musical.
Cool things like
doing it with community
No, that's what
is
he
the
said.
way
It's
to
like,
do
that's
it.
what I love about how
Doing
you
it with
write,
the
because you don't know
community.
the rules. I'm like, yeah, it's good. That's good.
Which
I know any
is
rules.
great,
I don't do
because you
rules.
don't, rules can
Totally.
bound you. For sure.
Yeah. And I think that's where trusting each other to hear the best in each
Yeah.
other's songs and say, you know what, that part of the song is awesome, and let's
Yeah.
just place all the focus on that. That's beautiful, but it's for another song. And, you know, it was really big of Camilla to be able to let
Absolutely.
go of those
Still
things.
holding on to that chorus. It's going to come back.
It's
Next
another
year,
song
it's
there.
going to be there.
Totally.
But that's a really healthy thing to do, and I think the more that we all do that, the more that songwriters in general do that, I think, hold. You know, the funny thing about writing a song is, people say hold it lightly, but it's really hard to do because you put yourself in those words, in that music. But the more that you learn how to do that, that's why I think Camilla's done such an amazing job, this being her first song. Mate, if someone else sung my first song, not that they would because it was atrocious.
I'd really love to hear it.
You definitely
I
don't.
will do a rendition.
It's when the spirit left
Nice.
the room.
I'm so excited.
Thank
It
you.
had a place, babe. Had a place.
It was powerful.
Oh,
Back in the day.
How's the backhand? It was powerful. But yeah, I thought that was really great. But I definitely think through this entire process, that's something that we have all learnt is to not take it so personally when someone says, I don't know about that line, or I don't know about that. I think that you got something better there. Like a year or two ago would have been like,
Well, wait
hang
a
on,
minute.
what? Like, don't come in and like change my song. But now it's like, because we see the best in each other, it's like we're actually trying to draw that out of each other.
Yeah.
And so that's how a team feels like a team in my mind.
Yeah.
Cool.
With Love Is One,
Yeah.
what was that like when you were recording it? Because it was the first kind of cap off the rank in terms of our EP and getting the singles released. And yeah, how was that recording experience?
It was fabulous. Actually, it was actually really tough.
It was a big day that day.
It was a big day. So going into Love Is One and going to the recording of it, we that morning we had just heard, obviously on the news, that that 22 people got killed at the Ariana Grande concert. And my heart was just really heavy when I was going into the studio that morning, just like, wow, you know, just all I ever see on the TV is just fear, hatred, fear. And so I was just really overwhelmed with that. And I think we were in the studio and I just really wasn't getting it. I was just really not in the right...
I think you were overthinking it.
I was really not in a good place. And so I sort of came back out and, you know, we just sat for a bit and just... Jolie's really good at being able to just draw out of me what it is. And I was just kind of saying what I was feeling in my heart. And he was like, well, why don't you know, the whole theme of this song is that love is one. And so why don't you just declare it over that city right now and over that nation? And so I went back into that vocal booth and I actually just was really overwhelmed with the presence of the Lord then. And it was a real privilege to be able to actually sing love always wins over that situation, but knowing that when fear can be the loudest noise that we see, knowing that, you know, at the end of the day that love will always win because love already has won. And so it was a really humbling experience, but it was also really powerful for me that I got to declare as I sung it. And yeah, that's sort of what happened there.
It's awesome.
And then that was it. I think we just did sort of like one.
Yeah, I think
one-
I think we got to the end when I was like,
That's it.
I
So
think that's it.
which was awesome. And yeah, so
And that just really shows the power of music, you know, at the core of how the Lord has created music and how involved it is in everything. I just love that in those moments, sometimes we just have no idea what else to do but to sing.
Yeah.
And I know for you that's the way that you feel like you can express yourself the most clearly and the most concisely in situations.
and I think as worshippers and as songwriters, we get the privilege to change atmospheres, and that is, you know, what part of our gifting and our calling is that we get to declare the goodness of who God is, and we get to declare love in the atmosphere instead of fear. And so, yeah, it was a different way of doing it. I don't think I've ever had that happen before, but it was also really humbling, and it was a real good moment. I walked out much more, God's here, and God's love always wins. And,
It's awesome. Love it.
Life starts here.